My name is Damaris, and I've never really sat down and told my full story like this. How I went from literally nothing, working overnight nursing shifts, broke, stressed, and I was honestly depressed, to now making over $1.2 million net profit trading options. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme, and I didn't win the lottery. And no, this wasn't luck either. This was just the outcome of years growing up, figuring things out, failing, trying again, and learning how to take control of my life. And I'm sharing this because I know what it feels like to be stuck. I literally know what it feels like to feel pressured by everyone around you and to feel like you're living a life that doesn't match exactly who you are inside. And that's exactly where my story started. I didn't grow up with stability. My mom was a single mom and we were on government assistance for pretty much my entire childhood. I always had stress around money and there was a lot of chaos in the house. And when you grow up like that, you learn very quickly what you don't want your adult life to look like. In my first year of high school, I ended up getting kicked out of my mom's house and I ended up having to live with my dad and my stepmom. And that living situation didn't feel entirely healthy either because me and my stepmom clashed constantly. It felt like I couldn't be comfortably inside of my own house, and that house never really felt like home. One morning, I had this argument with my stepmom that I remember very vividly. I told her, I'm moving out. I'm not staying here forever. And she looked at me and she said, with what money? It sounds small, but that moment stuck with me because it woke something up inside of me. Because yes, at that moment, I didn't have any money. I didn't have any plan, but I knew I needed to create a life where nobody had that kind of power over me again. And at the same time, I've always been the smart kid. I had a 4.0 unweighted GPA in high school. I was top 10 in my class. I did dual enrollment. I was a certified nursing assistant by the time I graduated. I even got a full ride scholarship to college. I've always pushed myself very hard, and school was the one area where I felt like I actually had control. And back then, I really thought my future was gonna be in medicine. I genuinely wanted to help people, and I also wanted a stable career because my childhood was the opposite of stable. But being good at something doesn't necessarily mean you're supposed to do it forever, and at that point, I didn't realize it yet. When I turned 18, that was the moment when everything started to change because at that moment, that's when I became a legal adult. And for my 18th birthday, my dad gave me $600. And instead of spending it, that's when I opened my first brokerage account with TD Ameritrade. Now they're Charles Schwab. And I deposited all of those birthday money funds into my brokerage account. At that moment, I didn't fully understand what was gonna happen next, but there was one thing that I knew, and I knew I wanted to make my money work for me because I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. So I actually didn't start trading at 18. It started years before that. In high school, I'd watch finance YouTubers. I literally did fake stock trading on simulation accounts, and I slowly became obsessed with financial literacy. I didn't really know that much about the stock market, but I was fascinated by the idea of controlling your income through knowledge and skill instead of having a boss. So that's when something life-changing happened for me, and that's when I found out that my friend's dad literally traded. So I used to go to her house after school, and before I even hung out with her, I'd sit with her dad and talk about the markets. So I didn't realize it then, but those conversations literally shaped my entire future. Every day I'd ask her dad questions, watch him work, and I was able to slowly piece things together. And that man unintentionally became my first mentor. During all of that, my life was overwhelming. I was working overnight nursing shifts, 12 hours on my feet, full-time college student, competitive power lifter. I was barely sleeping, plus I had the family stress constantly in the background. At this time though, I was really good at putting on a mask. So everyone at this time saw me as the girl who had her life together, but really in the inside I was drowning. And I woke up every day already knowing how my day was going to go because someone else had decided it for me. And that's what stuck for me really felt like. My whole schedule was already written out. There was was no room to breathe. And meanwhile, I'm dreaming of something completely different, but I'm not allowed to do it. So trading became the one thing that felt like it was mine and I was fully in control of, and there was a future I could look forward to. So even though I was tired, I'd still study the charts, journal, backtest, because trading literally felt like the only door out that my life was giving besides continuing going to medical school. So my first year trading was pretty messy, but it taught me everything that I needed. In my first trade, I won $20 profit. And that $20 felt huge because it showed me what was actually possible. Because the thing is, at that time, I was working a full-time job, but for only $13 an hour. And in my first trade, in less than an hour, in just a couple minutes, I had already made $20 and I was like, boom. That's instantly when the light switched inside of my head, and I knew that trading was super powerful. And I literally used my money to make more money for me while I was laying in bed looking at candlesticks. That was instantly when I fell in love with trading. After my first month of trading, I was profitable and I made $500. But in the next quarter that followed that, I ended up losing the profits that I made. It wasn't exactly because my strategy failed, because I've been using the same strategy since I started, but it was more like because I did emotionally, psychologically. I was trading from emotions, chasing wins, forcing setups that weren't there. I had no structure. I wasn't mature yet, and I didn't fully understand risk management. I had to get a sense of the risk, but I didn't walk away when I ended up losing my profits. I just tried to slow down and I started taking it more seriously, because at that point I was still nursing, I was still powerlifting, doing everything that I had. When I lost my first month's profits of gains, I didn't walk away or quit trading. I just took it slower. I knew I needed to slow down, and that's when I locked in and I started taking trading more seriously because I saw what was possible. I just knew that I made mistakes that I needed to improve. And once I started taking trading more seriously, that's when everything started to click and I started having consistent $1,000 months. And then I had a month where I made $3,000. And by the end of the first year, I was averaging $2,000 per month. And obviously that amount kind of sounds small today, but back then that was more than I made working 12-hour nursing shifts. And I was making that just trading on my computer for a couple minutes to like an hour a day. So that was the first time that I thought, wait, I don't have to actually live like this forever. I don't have to constantly be in the hospital. I don't have to constantly be with sick people. I don't have to like be on call during residency. That was powerful. So that thought really kept me going. But even with the progress that I had made, I didn't fully trust trading yet, because everyone online made it look like if you weren't making $50,000 days, then maybe you're not a real trader. So even when I started having those consistent months, I still doubted myself, especially when things online say 99% of traders fail. It puts those doubts inside of your head. But I remained strong because I personally knew my mentor, my friend's dad, who was trading, and I was trading alongside him. So while I was balancing school, work, bills, and expectations, I took that leap on something that I wasn't even sure was secure. And that's the hard part. But things shifted in my sophomore year of college, and it was around Christmas time, and I started hitting $5,000 months trading options. And I told myself, give me one more quarter and see what happens. And then the next spring, I hit $10,000 in a single month, and I was still in school, and I was still working, but I was trading. I was still doing everything. That's even when I was doing my side hustles. Back then, I was grinding. I was doing school, I was doing work, I was paying bills, I was doing side hustles, I sold products, I went to garage sales and tried to flip them on eBay. I grinded. And my side hustles maybe made me $1,000 to $2,000 a month. My job maybe $2,000 to $3,000 a month. But that same month, I made $10,000 trading, and I put less time into trading than everything else. And that's when I knew. That's when I paid off all my student loans completely, and I decided I wasn't wasn't re-enrolling for the next semester. So that's when I quit my CNA job and I stopped living life based on what everyone around me thought was responsible. And what I did, I booked a 2-month Airbnb in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. And my plan was just to take a break. I was just thinking, hey, I'm gonna take a short break. But when I got to Mexico, I realized how different life felt like when nobody was controlling me anymore. And I ended up staying in Mexico for 6 months. And that was the first time in my life where I woke up and my time actually belonged to me. I wasn't being told where to be or who to be, because it was my first time not doing school and work at the same time. I wasn't walking on eggshells in my own home. I wasn't studying something that didn't excite me. I wasn't working shifts that drained me. I finally chose myself, and I never gone back to the life I left. I've never gone back. Since then, I've made over 1.2 million net profit trading. And yes, that means I've lost around $250,000 along the way. The losses that I took taught me way more than any YouTube video or textbook ever could, because I journaled every single trade and I analyzed every single trade. And I could clearly start seeing the patterns between winning trades and losing trades, even if I'm following the same strategy. And doing that same process over time helped me spot the nuances, how to choose a stronger trade, how to identify a weaker trade so I could improve my win rate and increase my profits. Some of my losses were from thinking I was invincible after a good winning streak. Some of my losses came from ignoring the rules that I now consider non-negotiable. So that's one part that not a lot of traders talk about, is that trading doesn't just build skill, it also builds your entire identity, because you learn discipline, patience, emotional control, humility. You learn how to take responsibility for your decisions without blaming anyone else, because there's no one to blame. The money itself doesn't fix your mindset. Your mindset is what ends up fixing your money. People always ask me what kept me going when life felt hard, when I was depressed, when things felt heavy, when I felt stuck. And honestly, it was never about motivation. It's just who I am to my core, because even when I felt depressed or overwhelmed, I always found a way to keep learning or keep improving. I don't like quitting, and I don't like staying stuck. And the difference is that I put effort into something that gives me freedom instead of putting in all my effort and energy into something that's draining me and building up someone else. Now let's talk about what's actually realistic in 6 months if someone genuinely tries with trading. You can actually get pretty solid with trading. Maybe not perfect, maybe not a millionaire yet, but you could definitely become steady and consistently profitable within 6 months of learning how to trade. I've watched people go from being scared to place their first trade to actually understanding what they're doing and making a bit of extra income from it. A couple $1,000s a month is common when someone treats it like a skill instead of a lottery ticket. And during my own first 6 months of trading, I made about $15,000, and I didn't even start with a $1,000 account. I had no clue what I was doing half the time, but I showed up every single day. I learned from my mistakes and I slowly started figuring things out. If I could talk to my younger self who was on the brink of getting ready to quit with trading, I just tell her that she's not asking for too much. She's just tired of trying to squeeze herself into a life that doesn't feel right. That's all it was. I wasn't being dramatic. I wasn't being unrealistic. I just knew something felt off. And that's why I wasn't happy in my old life. And once you know that, it gets harder to pretend you're okay. And some days you barely may have the energy to do anything. But I still tried to do one small thing for myself every single day, just to at least make one step forward each day. So sometimes what I did was I literally took 5 minutes a day to review a chart, or making sure I didn't take a dumb emotional trade, and being conscious of the decisions I'm making in my trading, and tracking all of the decisions I've ever made, all the trades I've ever made, and then analyzing them and using that data to continuously improve. So those little things added up a lot over time. Even though it didn't feel like it in the moment, my life looks completely different now, but it was not because I had some big aha moment. It was more like I slowly stopped living on autopilot. I stopped trying to hit goals other people thought were impressive. I stopped lying to myself about what I wanted. And honestly, I'm still the same person. I've always been an overachiever. I've always liked working hard. The only difference now is that my effort actually goes towards something that feels like mine instead of something that I was doing to keep other people comfortable. The feeling isn't a big sign or anything. It's just you noticing what you're doing right now isn't working for you anymore. And you don't need to flip your entire life at once. Most of the changes I made were tiny and boring. I just kept adjusting things until they made sense for me. And I just showed up every single day. Put in a little bit of effort and improved just a tiny bit every day. So you don't need to have everything figured out. Just don't stop betting on yourself. And that's what made all the difference for me.